Welcome to the Majestic Truth podcast. Join us as we delve into the mysteries of the universe, explore the unexplained, and shed light on some of the most important events that have occurred and are occurring in our world today. Get ready to open your mind, expand your horizons, and discover the extraordinary. This is the Majestic Truth podcast. And now your host, Michelle.
Welcome back, Truth Seekers, to another episode of the Majestic Truth podcast, the show that explores the most intriguing mysteries and unexplained phenomena from our world and beyond. I'm your host, Michelle, and today I'm thrilled to share 3 absolutely fascinating stories with you that showcase just how incredible our universe really is. We'll start by diving into some recent developments in the UFO world, where the Pentagon has made some interesting claims about the famous GOFAST video. Though as you'll soon hear, there's still plenty of mystery left to unravel. Then we'll venture to the outer edges of our solar system, where scientists have come up with an ingenious new plan to hunt for the elusive Planet 9 using hundreds of tiny telescopes. It's a creative solution that could finally answer one of astronomy's biggest questions. And finally, we'll explore an unexpected collaboration that's bringing high fashion to outer space, as luxury brand Prada teams up with NASA to design the next generation of spacesuits. Trust me, this is one partnership you won't want to miss hearing about. Let's dive into this fascinating development regarding the GOFAST UFO video that's been making waves since 2017. You know, this was one of those cases that really captured everyone's imagination, showing what appeared to be an object moving at incredible speeds just above the water's surface. Well, the Pentagon just dropped quite a bombshell about this footage during a recent congressional testimony. Dr. John Kozlowski, who heads up the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, explained that what made the object appear to move so quickly was actually something called a parallax effect. Using some pretty sophisticated analysis and trigonometry, they determined that the object wasn't skimming the water at all. It was actually cruising at around 13,000 feet in the air. Now, if you're familiar with the original video, you might remember those Navy pilots' reactions. Their excitement was palpable as they tracked this mysterious object, with one of them shouting, "Whoa, got him!" and another asking, "What the F is that?" while they watched it zip across their radar screens. It's pretty compelling stuff, even with this new explanation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Even though they've explained the apparent speed of the object, they still haven't identified what it actually was. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to unexplained cases. In fact, Dr. Kozlowski revealed that they still have 21 cases that they simply can't solve. One of the most intriguing involves a law enforcement officer out west who encountered what he described as a large orange orb floating several hundred feet in the air. When he got within about 100 feet of what he called a blacker-than-black object, roughly the size of a Toyota Prius, it reportedly shot straight up into the sky at a 45-degree angle, at an impossible speed. Even more puzzling is the case of 2 government contractors in the southeast who reported seeing something that defies explanation: a massive metallic cylinder about the size of a commercial airplane, just hovering motionless in the air for 15 to 20 seconds before completely disappearing. As Kozlowski pointed out to Congress, unless it was a blimp, which doesn't explain the disappearing act, there's simply no conventional explanation for what these contractors witnessed. So while the Pentagon might have solved one mystery with the GOFAST video, it seems we're still left with plenty more questions than answers when it comes to these unexplained aerial phenomena. So I want to play some clips from the hearing with Kozlowski and Congress. Here's a portion of Congresswoman Gillibrand's opening statement.
When unidentified anomalous phenomenon enter our airspace, we need to know about it. We need to identify it, but in order to do that, we need to reduce the stigma and credibility challenges associated with these events. Our service members, scientists, foreign partners, and the general public need to know that their reporting, research, and analysis will be taken seriously and acted on in good faith. In the spirit of transparency, AARO recently released a consolidated annual report just a few months after releasing the first volume of the historical record report in March of this year. These public documents help highlight the challenges still facing this office, including the lack of timely and actionable sensor data, the need to revisit cases placed in the active archive, and the importance of improving reporting sources, both in the interagency and internationally. In this hearing, I want to probe a series of specific issues. First, as incidents at Langley and elsewhere have demonstrated, unmanned aerial systems, or UAS, continue to pose significant threats to our national security. In addition to safety of flight issues these UAS create for our own pilots and air crew, the UAS present clear and undeniable counterintelligence concerns around some of the most sensitive airspace. While standard UAS are not part of AARO's mission, your work on sensors at military installations across the country will be critical to making sure that we have the domain awareness necessary to accurately identify and track these objects. I expect your office to also pay close attention to any anomalous characteristics that these systems could present in the future. Second, I look forward to your presentation of 3 case studies demonstrating cases that AARO has resolved, including the GOFAST, which is one of the most prominent UAP cases. However, I believe it is important to acknowledge ongoing public interest in the Nimitz incident, the gimbal video, and other prominent UAP cases, and for AARO to share what it can about those cases as well. It's also important that AARO speak to unresolved cases and what types of anomalous activity have merited further analysis. And while I know AARO has gone through a period of transition over the past year, it is important to share these disclosures, both resolved and unresolved cases, with the public, even when a Senate hearing is not scheduled. Lastly, while some have been hesitant to come forward to AARO in the past, I hope that potential individuals with firsthand knowledge of unreported programs view your arrival in this position as an opportunity for a new start. AARO was created by Congress to do this work. Congress waived non-disclosure agreements for those who disclose information to AARO and gave AARO the authority to go and turn over every rock. I hope those with information to share use this opportunity so that we, as your senators who represent you, can do our jobs.
That's what we are hoping for. More transparency and open dialogue about what is happening in our skies and in our seas. Okay, the next clip is a portion of the opening remarks from Congresswoman Ernst.
Our hearing today is about identifying UAPs and understanding their potential implications, which could range from technological advancements to potential threats to our national security. Are these phenomena tied to foreign adversaries such as China or Russia, leveraging advanced technologies beyond our current capabilities? Or do they represent unknown scientific phenomena that challenge our current understanding? We must answer these critical questions to ensure that our national security is not compromised. It is vital that all agencies work in tandem to aggregate data, identify patterns, and develop robust analytical frameworks. Our ability to detect, track, and respond to UAPs requires the latest technology and full cooperation from all government branches.
I couldn't agree more that these questions need to be answered to ensure our national security is not compromised. Next up, here's a portion of Kozlowski's opening statement.
Unidentified objects in any domain pose potential threats to U.S. safety and security. Reports of UAP activity, particularly near national security sites, must be treated seriously and investigated with scientific rigor by the U.S. government. Since I arrived at AARO in August, I've been impressed by the breadth and depth of my team's experience and the framework they've established to rigorously analyze UAP reports. AARO has taken meaningful steps to improve data collection and retention, bolster sensor development, effectively triage UAP reports, and reduce the stigma of reporting UAP events. Last year, AARO worked with the DoD's Joint Staff to issue guidance to defense personnel worldwide on how to report UAP observations and is working with the military services regarding implementation. AARO has also launched a public website that features UAP imagery, case resolutions, material analysis, archival records, and more. These are only a few examples of AARO's recent progress, and we're just getting started. To date, AARO has over 1,600 UAP reports in its holdings from across the US government. You'll see that many reports resolve the commonplace objects like birds, balloons, and unmanned systems, while others lack sufficient data for comprehensive analysis. Although only a small percentage of reports received by AARO are potentially anomalous, these are the cases that require significant time, resources, and a focused scientific inquiry by AARO and its network of partners. It is important to underscore that to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. To accomplish AARO's national security mission, I have set 3 priorities for the office: building strong partnerships, promoting transparency, and scaling up the work of the office. AARO cannot do its work alone. Building partnerships across government, academia, industry, and with the public is essential to the success of the office. Strong cooperation with the military services is particularly important. We rely on their support to implement our reporting guidance and to amplify the message that there should be zero stigma associated with UAP reporting. We also rely on partnerships with the national labs, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, NASA, all of which play a role in the whole of government effort to address UAP. It is important to note that AARO does not unilaterally declassify information. Instead, we work with the originator of a classified record to ensure that declassifying that record does not inadvertently harm national security. This can take time. Nonetheless, the department is committed to declassifying and publicly sharing more information on UAP while protecting sensitive sources and methods. AARO is also working closely with the National Archives and Records Administration to make UAP-related documents publicly available in a digitized collection. Meanwhile, AARO continues to review the U.S. historical record relating to UAP. We welcome any former or current government, civilian, contractor, or military service member with relevant information to reach out to us at www.aaro.mil. My final priority is scaling up AARO's work to match its mission. AARO needs to bolster the quantity, quality, and diversity of data that it acquires and examines. This means tapping into existing data sources within the interagency while deploying AARO's own organic sensor capabilities. To the extent that UAP results from the domain awareness gaps, more and better data will help us fill those gaps and help us understand what is being encountered. In closing, AARO is committed to the highest standards of scientific integrity. We will not foreclose on any explanation for UAP prematurely. We will continue to follow the science and data wherever they lead. We will continue to have an open and frank dialogue with Congress in settings like these and in classified briefings. We will continue to keep you fully and currently informed of all UAP information, active or historical. And finally, we will share as much information as possible at the unclassified level to inform the public of AARO's activities and its findings.
There's that transparency theme again. The same resounding theme we heard at the previous congressional hearing we played clips from in our last episode, episode 39. So Kozlowski then goes on to a presentation with data and charts. You can watch the full presentation online. We have linked to the video at majestictruth.com/episode 40. After the presentation, Congresswoman Gillibrand has this exchange with Kozlowski regarding anyone coming forward with UAP firsthand reports. Trust for bringing their accounts to AARO.
It's been widely reported that individuals claiming firsthand knowledge of unreported UAP programs have been reluctant to engage with AARO. What message do you have for those individuals, and how will you work to gain their trust?
I would let them know that Congress has gone out of its way to create the organization AARO specifically to conduct these sorts of investigations, and has uniquely empowered them to have access to all UAP related information, whether that's historic or current. Mm-hmm. And we take that responsibility and those authorities very seriously. And so we have been reaching out to a broader community, encouraging folks who had talked to AARO personnel in the past and maybe felt uncomfortable to come back to us. We've met with several of their interlocutors and a couple of firsthand witnesses, and we are making great progress. And those firsthand witnesses that we have talked to do feel comfortable coming back to us. Mm-hmm. And so we hope that more folks that do have information would go to www.aaro.mil, fill out the form, send it to us so we can bring them in for interviews and add their information to our investigations.
Okay, so now Gillibrand goes on to talk about the report released by AARO in March. Again, we will link to this at majestictruth.com. She had some great points with her assessment of that report. Let's listen in.
I recently just read your report from March, your historic report, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in this topic to read the report, because when I was asked by a reporter about it, they said, well, it doesn't show any evidence of secret programs that have aliens. That's not how I read the report. What I read the report is the US government took sightings extremely seriously over the last 75 years, put some of the greatest minds ever to analyze these cases because they assess them as some deeply unknown phenomena that may or may not cause threats, that may or may not be related to adversaries, but are certainly something that the US government needed to know about. And what I read from this report is that we resolved numbers of cases, but in almost every instance, whether it was in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the noughts, half the cases were unresolved. So I don't think this is an example of the government not taking these cases seriously. I think this is an example of our government spending 75 years taking these cases very seriously. And interestingly, for the group that put together this report, they didn't have access to any firsthand reporting. And so from my perspective, for whistleblowers and people who want to come in, please come in, because the purpose of AARO is so that the senators can do our job to provide oversight, accountability, and transparency. We find it very concerning that our pilots, that our Navy officers, that people who have sightings of UAPs are denigrated, are somehow dismissed or disregarded. They need to be protected. This is a huge issue for national security because, number one, we don't have domain awareness, which is very problematic. Number two, we don't have domain superiority if we don't understand how different UAPs are flying, what technology they're using, what their mission is, what their purpose is. And at the base level, we have so many UAPs around our bases, around our military sites, around our nuclear sites, that it's deeply disturbing that adversaries at a minimum could be using these opportunities to spy, to glean intelligence that will harm our long-term national security. So I'm grateful that you're taking the whistleblowers very seriously. I'm grateful that AARO is trying its best to integrate the private sector, the public, into their work. Interestingly, in this hearing, we heard that the FAA is now working hand in glove, which is very helpful. We want this public-facing accessibility to be put in place by 2025 so that people can upload their videos, their data, their reports. I've met with people who have followed this issue for decades, and they have thousands of examples, thousands of pieces of data that ultimately I want uploaded into AARO so you can cross-reference historic information with current information, because this group at AARO are the best scientists that we can find anywhere, and they will do the work that's needed to be done. So I just want to thank you for that.
So we will have to see if in 2025, this website where data and imagery can be uploaded will be up and running so people can report with specifics about UAP and USOs. We will keep a lookout and see when this is up for people to start utilizing for reporting purposes. Now, Gillibrand asks the following questions regarding cases that require further analysis.
Can you tell us about any of the cases that merit further analysis by your IC and science and technology partners? What is it that makes these cases anomalous? And a large number of reports are placed in the active archive because AARO does not have enough information. What might prompt you to reopen a case like that? And do you have any examples?
Sure. I'll start with the active archive case. So that is just the place where we put cases where we don't have enough scientific information to resolve them at that time, but we're always looking for opportunities to correlate them to new cases that come in as the new cases come in, as well as enrich those cases with additional data. We do have one example that I'm aware of where we were able to correlate a number of observations of interesting lights in the sky, and eventually we concluded that it was multiple people observing Starlink. flares, just as an example. 3 cases that merit analysis that we're working on right now. One we might be in the process of resolving, but nonetheless is still interesting. The first one was brought to us by a law enforcement officer out west, where he observed a large orange orb floating several hundred feet above the ground a couple miles away. He went to investigate what was going on with that orb. And as he was pulling up to the location where he thought would be below the orb, about 40 to 60 meters away from some object the area was well lit, he saw a blacker than black object. He said it was about the size of a Prius, 4 to 6 feet wide. And as he got 40 to 60 meters away from the object, it tilted up about 45 degrees, and then it shot up vertically. He says 10 to 100 times faster than any drone he's ever seen before. And it did that without making a sound, as far as he could tell from inside of his vehicle. And just as it left his field of view through his windshield, then it emitted very bright red and blue lights that illuminated the inside of his vehicle as brightly as if someone had set off fireworks just outside his vehicle, or street flares. So that's anomalous because of the size of the vehicle with the great acceleration. And when he came back to investigate that area, he found no disturbance of the ground beneath it. So that's one interesting one. Another one comes to us from Southeast US. There was a US facility where 2 cars of government contractors were leaving the facility around 9 o'clock in the morning. They looked up in the sky and saw a large metallic cylinder about the size of a commercial airplane, and it was stationary. They observed that there was a very bright white light behind or around the object. They saw it stationary for 15 to 20 seconds, and then it disappeared. Obviously, an object that large, stationary, unless it's a blimp, is unusual, but then disappearing, we can't explain how that would happen. And then the last case was interesting. We had a aircraft that was flying parallel to another aircraft, and it was capturing imagery of it. And a small looking object appeared to fly between the 2 of them much faster than them. Through very careful analysis, we think that the object might have actually been further away than the object that it was videotaping, but it requires very careful analysis to come to those conclusions, and we don't have the metadata to support that.
Interesting cases indeed. I look forward to hearing more about them and the explanations AARO comes up with for explaining them, especially if they do not believe they are of extraterrestrial origins. There's much more that was said in this hearing, and again, you can listen to the full hearing at majestictruth.com. We will link to the full video so you can watch it in its entirety. That brings us to our next story. You know, the search for new planets in our solar system has always been this incredible journey of discovery. And right now, we might be on the verge of something really exciting. Ever since William Herschel spotted Uranus back in 1781, astronomers have been searching for more planets in the outer reaches of our solar system. While Neptune's discovery in 1846 was a huge triumph, we haven't found any other large planets since then, just Pluto and other smaller dwarf planets. But here's where things get interesting. Scientists have noticed something peculiar about the way certain objects beyond Neptune are moving. These trans-Neptunian objects and Kuiper Belt objects aren't orbiting quite the way we'd expect them to. Their orbits show this weird clustering pattern that suggests something big might be pulling on them. Possibly a planet about 5 times the mass of Earth, lurking way out there, about 10 times further from the sun than Neptune. Now, some really clever astronomers have come up with this fascinating new approach to finding this elusive Planet 9. Instead of using traditional telescopes, they're proposing to build an array of 200 smaller telescopes, each about 40 centimeters wide, spread out over 1,000 kilometers. These telescopes would work together to watch for something called occultations. That's when an object passes in front of a star and briefly blocks its light. The really brilliant part about this plan is how it uses multiple viewpoints. Since each telescope would see these occultations from slightly different angles, they could piece together incredibly detailed information about the objects they're observing. Over 10 years, they estimate they could discover about 1,800 new trans-Neptunian objects. More importantly, if there really is a super-Earth-sized planet out there within 800 astronomical units of the sun, this system would definitely find it. What's particularly amazing about this proposal is its price tag, just $15 million. That's incredibly reasonable for a project of this scale. And even if they don't find Planet 9, this network would still give us valuable insights into the outer solar system and help us understand how sunlight affects the orbits of smaller objects out there. Whether Planet 9 turns out to be real or not, this innovative approach shows just how creative astronomers can be when it comes to solving cosmic mysteries. Some have even suggested that what we're looking for might not be a planet at all, but rather a primordial black hole, though that's a whole other fascinating possibility to consider. Now for our final story, let me tell you about one of the most unexpected collaborations I've seen in space exploration. Axiom Space has teamed up with Prada, yes, Prada, to design NASA's next generation of spacesuits for the Artemis program. It's such a fascinating blend of high fashion and cutting-edge space technology. You might be wondering why we need new spacesuits in the first place. Well, NASA has been using the same basic spacesuit design since 1982, and we haven't had any new lunar mission suits since the Apollo program ended in 1972. That's a really long time when you think about all the technological advances we've made since then. The new suit they're developing, called the Axiom, is absolutely remarkable. Instead of having to custom make suits for each astronaut, they've designed it to fit 99% of both male and female body types. This is huge because it makes the suits so much more versatile and practical for different missions. What's really cool about having Prada involved is how they're bringing their expertise in materials and craftsmanship to the table. They're using some incredibly advanced materials that can stand up to the harsh conditions on the moon. The suit also has these amazing new joint designs that give astronauts much better range of motion, something that's absolutely crucial when you're trying to work on the lunar surface. They've also built in some impressive safety features. The suit has redundant systems, which means backup systems for critical functions, and it can even diagnose problems on its own. When you're 250,000 miles from Earth, this kind of self-monitoring capability could literally be a lifesaver. The whole project is moving along nicely with extensive testing underway. They're putting these suits through all sorts of simulations to make sure they can handle whatever the moon throws at them. The critical design review is scheduled for 2025, so we're getting closer and closer to seeing these suits in action. You know what I find really exciting about this whole project? It shows how space exploration isn't just about engineering anymore. By bringing in expertise from unexpected places like the fashion industry, we're creating something that's not only functional, but also represents the best of human innovation and creativity. It's proof that when we think outside the box and combine different fields of expertise, we can create something truly extraordinary. You know, looking at these three stories together, I can't help but notice some fascinating connections. They all represent different ways we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Whether it's in space exploration, scientific investigation, or technological innovation. Let's start with the GOFAST video analysis. While the Pentagon may have explained away one mystery, they've openly admitted to having 21 cases they still can't solve. That's pretty remarkable when you think about it. In an age where we have incredibly sophisticated technology at our disposal, there are still phenomena that leave our best experts scratching their heads. The cases of the orange orb and that massive metallic cylinder are particularly intriguing because they have multiple credible witnesses. Then we have this brilliant proposal for finding Planet 9. I absolutely love how creative this solution is. Instead of building one massive, expensive telescope, they're suggesting we use 200 smaller ones working together. It's like the old saying about many hands making light work. But in this case, it's many telescopes making space work. And at just $15 million, it's surprisingly cost-effective for a project that could potentially discover a whole new planet in our solar system. And what's really striking about the Prada spacesuit collaboration is how it demonstrates that innovation often comes from unexpected places. Who would have thought that a luxury fashion house would be helping design the next generation of spacesuits? But when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Prada has decades of experience working with advanced materials and creating designs that need to be both functional and comfortable. These stories show us that the lines between different fields of expertise are becoming increasingly blurred. We're seeing fashion designers working with space engineers, astronomers using distributed networks instead of traditional observatories, and military officials openly discussing unexplained aerial phenomena in Congress. It's a reminder that some of the best solutions come when we approach problems from new angles. What's particularly exciting is how all of these developments are happening simultaneously. We're living in a time where we're not just pushing one frontier, we're pushing several at once. We're looking for new planets, trying to understand unexplained phenomena in our skies, and developing the next generation of space exploration equipment, all while breaking down traditional barriers between different fields of expertise. This is really what modern science and exploration look like. It's collaborative, it's creative, and it's not afraid to try new approaches or bring in expertise from unexpected places, whether we're searching for mysterious planets, investigating unexplained phenomena, or designing the next generation of space equipment. We're seeing that the best results often come when we think outside traditional boundaries. Wow, what an incredible journey this season has been. From the depths of space to unexplained phenomena right here on Earth, we've covered so much ground together. After diving into these fascinating stories today, I can't help but feel grateful for all of you who've joined me on this adventure of discovery and exploration throughout Season 2. Speaking of gratitude, I want to wish all of our listeners a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope your holiday season is filled with joy, wonder, and maybe even some fascinating conversations about the mysteries of our universe over turkey dinner. Before we wrap up, I have some exciting news to share. I'm thrilled to announce the upcoming launch of my science fiction novel, Destiny of the Starborn. For those of you who love our discussions about space, unexplained phenomena, and the endless possibilities that lie beyond our current understanding, I think you're really going to enjoy this story. The best part is that you'll be able to experience it in multiple formats, as a traditional paperback, an ebook, an audiobook, and even as a fictional podcast series. Keep your eyes and ears open for updates on the release dates. Now, don't worry, this isn't goodbye, it's just see you later. The Majestic Truth podcast will be taking a short break, but we'll be back in January for Season 3 with even more mind-bending stories, fascinating discoveries, and thought-provoking discussions. I already have some amazing content lined up that I can't wait to share with you all. Thank you for being the most incredible audience I could ask for. Your enthusiasm, curiosity, and engagement have made this season truly special. Until we meet again in January, keep looking up, stay curious, and never stop questioning the majestic truth that surrounds us all. All right, Truth Seekers, that concludes this episode of Majestic Truth. For more information on this episode, visit majestictruth.com/episode 40. I hope you've enjoyed exploring the depths of the unknown with us today. Remember, the pursuit of truth and the quest for knowledge are ongoing journeys. So stay curious, stay open-minded, always follow your dreams, and keep seeking answers. And if you have your own theories or stories to share about UFOs and other conspiracies, reach out to us on social media or email us at truth@majestictruth.com.
For updates, behind-the-scenes content, and a chance to engage with fellow truth seekers. Stay connected with us on social media. Find us on Twitter at TruthSeekerPod, Instagram at Majestic Truth Seekers, and TikTok at Majestic Truth Seekers. Thanks for listening.